Do you believe the U.S. government is purposefully exceeding its constitutional authority? Do you oppose many federal and state laws and regulations, particularly those related to firearms ownership? Do you think the purpose of the Second Amendment is to fight a tyrannical government? If you answered yes to one or more of those questions, stick around. I'm Phil, and this is the Minuteman Moment. If you answered yes to any of those questions, then a database created by big tech probably has you labeled as a far-right militia. The database is run by the Global Internet Forum to Counter Terrorism, which was founded under pressure from US and European governments by YouTube, Twitter, Microsoft, and Facebook, and includes over a dozen other tech giants. In the past, this database was focused on videos and images from terrorist groups, and so has largely consisted of content from Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. And in recent years, the United States Government Office of the Director of National Intelligence has deputized this big tech conglomeration to censor and disrupt these terrorists. Now, under the guise of cracking down against militias, this alliance of government and tech giants has set its sights on the Bill of Rights. The Biden administration will suggest the people and groups to target, and big tech will track them down and censor them without ever even involving the legislative or judicial branches of government. The bureaucrats in the federal government think they actually found a way around the First Amendment. And in a March of 2021 joint assessment, President Biden's ODNI classified as violent militia extremists those who take overt steps to violently resist or facilitate the overthrow of the U.S. government in support of their belief that the U.S. government is purposefully exceeding its constitutional authority and is trying to establish a totalitarian regime, oppose many federal and state gun laws and regulations, particularly those related to firearms ownership. And so I have a question. What does overt steps mean? I have another question. What's the definition of violently? Like a lot of what the government does, these terms are purposefully vague. The ODNI is mischaracterizing Americans who live and breathe the Founding Fathers' intentions when they enacted the Second Amendment as domestic terrorists, all in an effort to increase public support for gun control laws. How, you say? The Biden administration's national strategy for countering domestic terrorism lays out the case for gun control. A key element of their strategy is reducing access to assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. The author of this gun control strategy and Deputy Homeland Security Advisor at the National Security Council also recently stated in an interview that tackling things that feed into the domestic terrorism challenge is an imperative, such as easy access to certain types of firearms. So now that ODNI has designated constitutionally minded Americans and gun owners as militia violent extremists, whatever that means, the government has created an excuse to take away modern firearm technology from the people, from you. The Biden administration understands that when gun owners are labeled as domestic terrorists, it becomes a public safety imperative rather than a gross violation of the Bill of Rights for the government to deprive individuals of their Second Amendment protected rights. But here's the thing. An armed populace
Too much nap.
There we go. The unorganized militia, empowered with the uninfringed right to keep and bear arms, is necessary to the security of a free state precisely because of the check and balance it provides against an abuse of the federal government. Even Justice Scalia noted in the landmark D.C. v. Heller Supreme Court decision that the militia was thought to be necessary to the security of a free state to empower the people to better resist tyranny. You're supposed to own guns to defend yourself and your loved ones from a tyrannical government, not for sport or pleasure. Still, despite our founding fathers' best attempt to secure our freedoms, big tech and big government are teaming up to undermine the Bill of Rights. Citing the threats of far-right or racially motivated violent extremism, the Global Internet Forum to Counter Terrorism is working with the Biden administration, who is categorizing its political opponents as terrorists and censoring Americans online if they express support for the original intent of the Second Amendment from their platforms. That's right. The federal government is encouraging private corporations to engage in First Amendment violations in support of the ruling party's fundamental disagreement with the existence of the Second Amendment. Government and big tech working together to silence you. Today's video was pretty heavy. If you want something a little more lighthearted, check out last week's Minuteman video. I highlighted some awesome work being done for you and the Second Amendment in the Senate. Anyway, that's it for today. I'll see you next time.